Hi, welcome to another episode of the Investor's Guide to Hard Money Lending. I'm Alyssa Fowler with CoreLend Financial, and today we have Mark Nichols here with Fast Track Realty, also known as Mr. Millington.
Yes,
Thank you for joining us here,
Yes,
Mark.
ma'am. I'm excited.
So tell me, like you've dealt with CoreLend as well, kind of, and you've got a few properties listed for us right now too. Tell me your background, tell me your history, how you got into investing.
Well, I'll start off with shout out to Crestcore. I love everything that you guys stand for, the energy, the code of ethics and standards that you guys hold yourselves to. Anything business wise that I have, been involved in with you, I've been, very excited and I've loved every bit of it. But as far as my background goes, I started off in the restaurant industry. So my entire family has been restaurant my entire life, still are to this day, most of them. I was in a restaurant in Millington, family owned, smaller, 6.5 years, started right before my 15th birthday. And I started saving up a lot of liquid cash, everything I had just about. And by the time I was 18, I had $25,000 in my savings.
That's a lot for an 18-year-old.
It was. So I was looking at a savings account with that much money, and I had the entrepreneur mindset already. So I was looking for something that would help me build that passive income or cash flow, or a way to invest that into something that would give me a return without me having to go to work every day to a 9-to-5 and live, the rat race, the modern day slavery and things of that nature. So that's kind of the mindset.
The student loan debt, almost indigent servitude now.
No student loan debt, no. So I actually did go to college. I was there for 3 days. On my third day, in third period, I was just like, you know what? I've got this much liquid cash. I've got the mindset, I've got the energy, I've got the drive. I don't necessarily have the resources and tools that I need. But I was looking at 7 essays on my second week. And I was like, I don't want to prioritize spending the next 4 or 5 years on education when it's not going to help me that much in regards to investing in real estate, because that was the goal. I was going for a business degree, and I wanted to learn how to own and operate a real estate business and learn how to begin investing in real estate. So on my third day there, I made the decision to just walk out in third period, and I never went back. I had to pay a fee for, I think, $2,000 or whatever. But from there, I went home. My parents, of course, were really mad at me because my sister didn't finish college either. But I had a conversation with my dad. He does jujitsu with Donnie Morrow, who runs the Morrow Group. So he thankfully was able to set up a meeting with Donnie. So I went to his office. He was at Remax in Arlington. Mm-hmm. And we did an interview. He liked me. He liked the energy. He liked the drive. And he gave me a list of things that I needed to do in order to get my real estate license. I prioritized getting my license before investing because I didn't have a background or any friends or family in the real estate industry. So I had to learn everything from nothing. I didn't know what an appraisal was. My parents had never bought a house. We were renting, going from property to property, stuff like that. So I got my license to learn how to buy a house in the first place, and then work on studying the numbers and, figuring out what type of loans you can get, what rehab should be budgeted, how to do a rehab, what looks good, what doesn't, stuff like that. So going back to how I started in the industry, it was really just a mixture of gut feelings and making that transition. To me, it was real estate or restaurant. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. So, the biggest struggle I had starting would be taking the test, because I didn't have any friends or family or experience in real estate. I had no knowledge at all. And I did the 90-hour course in person with Kevin Figg. And I don't know if it was because I was 18, I just wasn't paying attention, a mixture of all of it, maybe had too much going on in my life at the time. But the material just wasn't clicking and I couldn't pass the exam. So I ended up trying a different teacher. I paid her $200 an hour, and I did probably a total of 20 or 30 additional hours.
Wow.
Took the test a few more times, still couldn't pass the national exam. Passed the state every time. But it was the national that was getting me. And
couldn't get those meets and bounds.
I mean, and I don't use any of it today.
I use any of that. Yes.
The square footage in an acre, never used it. Never had to, but
now I've had to use that, and I've had to use adverse possession before, which I never thought I'd have to use adverse possession, but had to.
Yeah.
On my personal house. So you finally passed it. You finally passed your...
I finally did, yep. So I finally passed it. I still kept that sheet of paper that, Donnie had given me because it was the only thing that I was hanging on to for real estate, restaurant or real estate. And keep in mind, I'm working insane hours while I'm trying to... I had a paycheck stub with 120 hours on it. And that was for 2 weeks, and we were closed on Mondays. So it was Tuesday through Sunday, open to close, 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. to, could be 10 or 11, depending on if it's a weekday or weekend. But I was working insane hours to build that capital even higher before I got into the industry. So that way I could have that cushion in the event that, I needed it.
Yeah, and you need that to go into real estate to start with, because it is, somebody once described it as you're waking up every day unemployed and going out to find a job again.
Mm-hmm. You're working for free. I don't count a deal until it's in the account.
Yes, because you could be at the closing table and it doesn't fund.
Yep.
And you were counting.
I haven't had that happen, thankfully. But
it's been a lot. I actually don't think I've had that happen either. It's been close, but it's like it's still gone through. So investing, so you started your real estate career. What was your first investment? What did that look like?
So I actually bought a fix and flip with a partner who also had an additional partner. They had, whatever they had going on, things kind of went south. We ended up closing 2 out of the 4 deals that I was involved in. They were actually getting their loans from you guys. So that's how I got introduced to hard money lending and figuring out those side of things. I won't touch too much on...
Oh, we still have 1207 Central.
Yeah. I won't touch too much on that topic for this platform anyway. But my first deals, they were great. The ones that I got paid out of, I learned a lot of the construction side of the business, which I think helped me on the real estate sales side of things. So I was 6 months in, give or take, when I started buying these properties with the partner. And I got to learn how much material was costing, what we were budgeting for overages, what we were spending monthly, total cash out of pocket, what our net profit was going to be, what our projected time frame is, what our, buyer pool will be on the back end. And this is in the 21, 22 market. So as far as reselling, like we were pretty much golden guaranteed. Numbers were looking good. So that helped me a lot, being 6 months in as a real estate agent that's brand new. And because I had joined the team, I already had several deals closed under my belt already. The team allowed me to learn that side of the business very fast. And then the real estate investment side of the business, I also learned very fast from the partnership that I had.
You just dove straight into the deep end.
Straight in. Yeah, all in. I've been all in my business since day one. Even to this day, I'm always all in. I eat, breathe, and live real estate. And that's why a lot of my clients come back to me, because I prioritize work nonstop, because I'm 26. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I'm building a future that I want,
right,
for a future wife and kids. So.
No, that's the way to do it. And it's like, there's another phrase like, a crackhead doesn't wake up every day. And don't let one of them out hustle you.
Don't let the crackhead out hustle you.
Yeah. So you've made a big niche up in Millington. Obviously, you're from there. So how is that market going up there? Because it's more rural, but I know it seems it's always been the naval base up there. It's always been steady, but it seems like it's growing.
It is. It's growing at an extremely fast rate. So what I usually tell people is, if you look at West Tennessee in general, Shelby County has Memphis in it. Mm-hmm. And Shelby County is the most southwest county in Tennessee. So you can't go south anymore if you're, developing as far as Memphis goes.
Right.
Or the Memphis market, and stay in Tennessee. You can't go south. You can't go west. That's Arkansas. South is Mississippi, and we've already gone out east as far as Germantown, Collierville, Eads, Arlington, kind of Brunswick area a little bit. But Millington has been, underdeveloped for so long. I think that the 21 and 22 market, when, especially first-time home buyers and people that were looking to downsize, that are empty nesters and things of that nature, when they're looking for something that's affordable and is a really, really good equity opportunity that's not too far from, what the inner city has that they want or need, Millington became a really good option for several buyers. And I think that plays a role into Millington's growth on top of all of the development that it has going on at the moment.
And I think too, it's still, whereas earlier on and still now, some of the other municipalities of Shelby County, it has fueled the growth when the school districts changed. Mm-hmm. And Millington, it took a little bit slower of a time, but it's still reaping those benefits as well. Mm-hmm. With that municipal school district in Millington, because they were one of the 5 municipalities that formed their own private
I think
one.
I was in high school when they did that.
Yeah, it was 2013.
Oh, yeah. No, I was middle school then. I was middle school when they did that, so...
Yeah, so that's changed. But like you said, being affordable, you mentioned like the Colliervilles and the Germantowns. It's you go buy a 3.2 1,700 square foot house there, you're spending $350,000 on it. Where in Millington, you can still get one for close to $200.
Yep, you can. I actually have a few listed under $200, and I tell any first-time home buyer that either I'm nurturing or actively working with, like, what's important is it being an equity opportunity for you, being a first-time home buyer. And with the development that Millington has going on right now, and its overall just infrastructure and the people that are running the city and bringing the development to it, shining the light on it in a good way, it's a really good equity opportunity for a lot of first-time home buyers. So we've got a couple of developers out there. Target is about to get built. There's an academy coming. There's a ton of retail, shopping, and dining. There's a lot going on. So
there is, and I tell people, you say building equity. Yeah, I tell people when their first time, if they can hold on to it when they eventually go to a bigger house, if they can hold on to it to keep it as an investment property,
always
do it.
Always.
Because you're gonna on down the road, if you decide to get back into investment, you're gonna tell yourself, I wish I would have kept that house. Mm-hmm.
You'll end up selling it, snowballing that equity into something that you want in that moment, and then 4 or 5 years later, when you see the buyer that bought your first house making $50,000 to $100,000 off of it in such a short time frame, it'll be like, oh wow, I should have rented that out and let a tenant pay down that equity for me. So
yes, it's thinking the long game for all of it. So tell me, how have you used hard money to leverage your business up some on doing some of your investment properties?
Mm-hmm. So the investments that I've been involved in, every single one of them was with hard money. So what it allowed me to do was not utilize every ounce of capital that I had. So the numbers made sense in that market. And in this market as well, you just have to be very conservative. But when the numbers make sense, hard money allows you to take on that risk without having to jeopardize every ounce of capital that you have. And what I really like about hard money is that it gives the average Joe the opportunity to say, hey, I've got 30 or 40,000 in a savings account, and I've always thought about real estate investing. Mm-hmm. Well, if you structure yourself properly ahead of time, and you do a lot of research and create, a game plan and partnerships, you can utilize that 30 or 40,000 you have saved, get a hard money loan, find the right deal, and that's the most important. The deal where the numbers work.
Yeah. And then you've doubled that 30 grand.
Exactly. So that's pretty much what I did. So when I first started investing in real estate, I knew I didn't have the funds to buy 3 flips and 1 new construction.
Right.
Hard money was the only option, and the numbers worked for all of them. So that's what made me confident in it. And the partnerships and the game plan that was there. So,
and I think some people getting into it to start with on using hard money or doing a flip, they're trying to look for a grand slam, the first one, or that's what they only want to do. If that and I tell people, I'm like, you can still have solid base hits. It doesn't. Everything has to be you're making 75,000 on a flip. 15 on this one, that might be great. That's 15 grand you didn't have in your pocket before now.
And I think that's very important in any business. When you're taking a risk like that, like being a first time real estate investor, you should focus more on knowledge, education, and relationships rather than net profit. Because if you're doing it for net profit, you're not going to survive.
No.
You have to be willing to lose money for education always.
And I tell people, start small, because you might be thinking of the big one, but you might not have that much capital. Well, that payment for that big property that has the really big return, that could drain everything you have, versus you start with $100,000 property.
Right.
And you're not making as much, but the payments aren't as much either.
See, the deals I started off with, the 3 flips and the 1 new construction, I was, I think, 18, 19 years old with $1.4 million in hard money loans. So to me, that was like, whoa.
That's a lot.
That is anything million at that point in my life, you know. I mean, it took 2 or 3 years for me to save up $25,000. I was super young at the time, so for me to be 18 or 19 years old with that much in loans, it was very scary. But it was a huge risk that has paid me to this day. So
yeah, and it worked out.
Education.
Yes. And I tell people on some of these real estate things, it's like you're jumping off the cliff without a parachute and hoping you just grab one on the way down.
Yep. Sometimes it feels like that, but you know, the real risk takers are the ones that, you know, stay in it long term. So
yeah. So tell me, you've got a few properties listed for CoreLend of REOs that we've had to unfortunately take back. And I'm seeing you're having success with it. How are those going right now?
They're really good. So we price them accordingly. When it comes to listing properties, I am heavy on marketing, on it, down, you know, to the layout of the photos. One, just starting off with professional photography, I think is very important. It's huge. Because I've seen, you know, $1 million listings where the agent that they're, you know, agreeing to pay whatever it is, you know, to list their home, usually 3%. So at a $1 million listing, if you are agreeing to pay someone $30,000, I think you're doing a disservice by going in there with your phone and, you know, taking a picture of the ceiling fan or, you know, the light fixture.
That's on, that's running.
Yeah. Or, you know, you leave the toilet seats up or the trash can in the photo on the outside. The listings with you guys though, they've gone very good because I have a killer marketing plan when it comes to all of my listings. I instantly need to know how we're going to market it before we even go live. I need to know when we should plan for an open house. I need to know what price we should start at to get, you know, 10 appointments at minimum within the first couple weeks. Usually I say 2 weekends. And marketing, the photos being professional, you know, paying extra for drone shots, making sure toilet seats are down, trash cans are out. It's a weird layout
to get a floor plan.
Right. Floor plans on all of my listings, drone shots on all of my listings, and really just marketing. I mean, the description, and also what's important is the layout of the photos. Some people will put the front photo and then you swipe over and it's a bathroom. And then you swipe one more and it's like a den space. So it's not as if the clients that are on Zillow are scrolling through the home like they're walking it. You know, you walk into the living room, you've got a dining room, you know, living room combo, maybe a kitchen combo as well, open layout, etc. But the layout of the photos is very important as well. But there are some cases where you may have a selling point in a listing that you want people to see. So if you include like a drone shot that has the pool in the backyard because you want people to know that it's a pool, you might make that one of the first photos that you include. So I think my success from those listings is not only the brand and the relationships that I've built in the city, but it's also the marketing plan that I strategically, you know, come up with for every listing.
And in this market, you say your marketing plan, how important is it to where that first impression of that property is the best that it's going to be? Like, we need to make sure landscaping's done. We need to make sure we don't have these little things that really not a big deal, but they can be when buyers have so many options now.
So right now I say it's more important than ever, first impressions, because if you look at just Millington's market in general, or, you know, Southern Tipton County, or really any market within the Memphis area, first-time home buyers right now are having tons and tons of different options. So first impressions are very important, because if they're looking at your home versus one, you know, just half a mile away that's a little bit cheaper and doesn't have any of those smaller imperfections, they're choosing that one every time.
Yes.
And, you know, of course, it's property by property, you know. But I think first impressions are very important in this market because buyers have so many different opportunities. They have so many different listings to choose from. So whereas when I first started in the real estate industry, it was like, if you don't have 40 or 50K to buy your first home and you're not willing to pay over the appraisal amount up to 10% on your first home, on top of your down payment and closing costs and your own home warranty, and maybe some of the sellers closing, then you're not buying a home. So that's the market I started in. And the market that we're in now, it's like
the opposite.
Man, I'm telling you, buyers are getting deals. They are getting deals.
I mean, and it's something so small as like, okay, everything's starting to grow now. Everything's greening up. It's like we can no longer do No Shave November here. I kind of look all the weeds that are growing up on properties. You have two that are exactly the same. One looks nice on the outside where they don't have weeds in all the flower beds, when that's such a simple thing. But the other one looks pristine. Which one are they going to go for? The one that looks more inviting?
Right. The one that's 100% ready. And I think that's where a lot of investors and sellers make a mistake when they go to list their home, especially investors, because they get so ready to start the selling process of the home that they don't finish out what they need to finish out in order to do so. And I've seen that in a lot of listings where it's just minor things, you know, maybe outlet covers or light switches haven't been swapped out. But from my experience working with mostly retail buyers, I know what bothers people and what will make them feel comfortable.
Because if they couldn't do something so simple as put outlet covers on, what is behind those walls?
Usually what I say is, look, if this is a condition that we can see up front, you have to imagine what the condition is beyond what we can see. Or something along those lines is normally what I say. No, it's
exactly it.
I think that the investors that take the time and they're tedious and, you know, they finish the project out and don't bum rush it at the end, those are the investors that are moving their properties a lot quicker than the ones that, you know, just get in a rush towards the end and they're just ready. And, you know, it may be excitement. It may just be they're low on funds to do it, whatever the case is. But you can't expect an agent to sell your renovated home when you're 90% done.
Yes.
I've refused to list for investors before because they didn't have a toilet installed, you know, didn't have the cabinets up, things like that. And it's like, come on. I mean, we're selling to a retail buyer, man. We have to have a toilet in there. We have to have the cabinets. What are we doing? What's the difference in putting it on the market now in this way, which is going to negatively affect the outcome of our results versus doing it the right way and getting exactly what you want for the property or more, because it's going to show well. It's going to show nice. It's not going to have a bad name to it. It's not going to be like a landlord special, and people are going to, you know, feel positive about it. It'll have a good image around its name rather than we rushed this and we're out of funds. Let's get it gone.
You're right. And I say people use us for hard money, and we've had many discussions because there's got to be the attention to detail now. It's not to where you're trying to do a retail flip and tell your contractor, oh, I'm leaving the finishes up to you. No, that's not what you want to do in this market, because they're not going to pick the thing that it's going to be what fits within my budget,
right?
For things. But it is that, and I also think too that are you going to hire a contractor that their bread and butter is turnkey flips, of investment properties? When are you going to hire that same contractor to go do $100,000 rehab in Germantown?
All right.
They're just used to seeing different things.
If you're ready to pay the difference, yeah. But
you're ready to pay the difference, but it's still, if you're not, then you have to stay on them. You can't there's very different mentalities where you started in 21, 22, and that. You could get away with that. You could get away with the...
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the 90% flip.
Yeah, you can't get away with that anymore.
Not at all, because you have so much competition. And I think it's really important for investors to know their buyer pool on the resale side. You have to know who your targeted audience is when it comes to getting rid of that property, if that is your main exit strategy. But I think it's also important to have more than one exit strategy.
I agree.
As always, when you're investing in real estate. But I think if you're pushing heavily towards the fix and flip route, you should know your targeted audience for that property before you do the renovation every time. Because that is how you will customize the entire, rehab to that audience. So,
yeah, I agree with you on that. If you're pitching to a retail buyer, it used to be people would think, oh, we budgeted for granite in here. Well, no, that's not good enough anymore. You're pitching to a retail that people are putting those in their rentals now, like the new Venetian gold or the white Venetian, new Venetian white, that type of granite, or the Uba Tuba. That's not what you put in now a retail flip, because that's what's coming out. So it's like you said, know who you're going to be marketing to, because there'll be other properties that have that quartzite in there, and you're pricing yours with this granite that people have started ripping out 5 years ago.
And that other property may be cheaper too. So
it may be cheaper. That
one will go before yours, and you just hold. You have your holding costs that you incur, and But yeah, I think that it's important for a lot of the investors to utilize, a lot of the newer investors to utilize hard money, because for me, it allowed an 18-year-old kid with little to no real estate experience to start investing in real estate. It was a dream come true for me to have that much, 4 different properties.
Yeah.
At the age that I was at, with the experience that I had.
And how many other traditional lenders are going to do that for an 18-year-old?
Yeah. Not a lot. So, thank you guys.
Yeah, not a lot. But no, it's true. It's like hard money. A lot of times it's you underwrite the assets. And if looking at this, do you have this? But we're truly looking, is this a good property? We rate things on, when we take things to loan committee, we have a rating scale, and it's got to meet a minimum of 5. And that could be, is that's the likelihood of this loan is going to pay off? Or if they walk away and they disappear, what is our likelihood of we'll have success in marketing this property? So I think that's what investors need to have too. Like, they don't just like, oh, here's a deal. Where does this rank? What's your likelihood of of having success on this property?
And being conservative with the numbers, of course.
And being conservative with the numbers.
I think a lot of first-time real estate investors get stuck on the lending side of things. I think that they don't know and understand that they don't have to have the 800 credit score. They don't have to have 300,000 liquid. All they have to have is the right deal, because it's, pretty much an asset-based loan. So I think it's important for, people that want to start investing in real estate to be able to come up with that game plan and learn and do your research on how hard money loans work, because I think that they're a very good tool for people that have little to no experience when it comes to investing.
Yeah, and as we do take the chance on the first time investors. Now we're probably not going to loan construction funds to a first time investor, because let's start small.
Big risk.
Big risk right there when you haven't done anything before. So it's like, start small. Then pay one off. Okay, you're good. You kind of you don't want to bite off more than you can chew to start off with. You persevered through it, but that would not be our recommendation to start off with 4 at one point.
No, I found a way to do it.
You found a way.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate having you on.
Of course.
You want to say anything else about you being Mr. Millington?
Yeah, of course. Shout out to Millington. I love my city, my hometown, everyone that, has supported me from day one. I'm extremely grateful to be here with one of the, top hard money lenders in the Memphis area, and to be able to, brand myself for our city, in a positive way. So also shout out to the Nichols Group, my business partners, Kendrick and Jose. We run our team very non-traditional, and we're extremely close, and we work day in, day out with each other, and we know where our businesses are, and we don't run it as, so-and-so is the boss, so-and-so has to do this, so-and-so has to do that. It's a very non-traditional, collaborative, laid-back environment and structure. And also shout out to Fast Track Realty, of course. Without Beth and Greg Lawson, I wouldn't be where I am today. So
tell me on this, discussed this before. I'm going to go into this because you brought up the Morrow Group. I'm going to say a horror story. They're going to ask yours. This is not just a complete horror story, but I had a buyer for a Cordova house, and we get to the inspection, and the Morrow Group's got it listed. And it gone out of contract 3 different times. And so my buyer, or we were the third that we walked away after the inspection. And I finally had to tell him, and it was Donnie's assistant. I'm like, you really need to know this. I'm like, it was a prefab truss roof, and they cut through all the trusses in the attic to go place the water heater on the far side of the attic. So you had half the trusses missing just a walkway there.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So needless to say, I'm like, you need to get in there and fix that. I said, because there's a big snow, and then that roof is collapsing.
I have no bad blood with Donnie or his team. I think that
was nothing negative to hear. That was just a funny thing.
But I did I was thinking about this on my way here, giving a shout out to Donnie and the Morrow Group, because if it wasn't for the business model that he created, turning people that have absolutely zero real estate experience into high producing agents and holding them accountable. And, it's not, he's going to feed you everything. He's going to feed the people that, bring him food as well.
Right.
So it's not, a team or a business that is going to babysit you. But if you put in, the work and you work, then, it's obviously profitable for you. Now, you do have the commission splits, things of that nature. But like I said earlier, when it comes to starting anything new, you have to be prepared to sacrifice finances for education every time. So
knowledge is power.
That's the mindset that I keep on, my time on the Morrow Group was, yes, I had the commission splits. I didn't make as much money. However, I got a ton of experience. I built a lot of great relationships, and, I love to see that his team is still operating to this day, and he has some heavy hitters over there. So it was a very good tool and very good systems and very good environment for me to be in when I started my career. The only reason I left was because my business got to the point where it didn't make sense. So it was just a business decision. So
tell me, what's a big horror story for you?
Outside of the first investments in real estate, I guess I can talk about the most recent horror story I had, where I lost $40,000 of capital on a real estate investment deal that I did solo. So this was when I first started investing in real estate. I had everything that happened. I lost every dollar I had. I had a huge financial reset. So then I spent probably a year or two in recovery mode, building liquid back up, focusing on structure, getting deals closed, learning the market more. Well, I purchased an owner finance deal in 38111. And keep in mind, I'm little old me from Millington. I don't know too much about the city of Memphis at this time.
38111, you get a little bit of everything.
I didn't know that. So I didn't know the further south you go in 111, the worse it can get. I was looking at this property from a Millington perspective of, hey, this property is like 7 minutes from the University of Memphis. I know that if I renovate it to high quality, I can put a college student in there. It can be a smooth, easy cash flowing asset. Well, that's not what it turned into.
No.
I ended up owning it for about a year and a half. I paid holding costs for it, the owner finance mortgage, taxes, insurance. I did do some rehab to it. I did about $30,000. Replaced all the windows, the doors. The roof was newer, thankfully. I replaced all the siding. I gutted it. I opened up the kitchen and living room layout. I mean,
you over renovated for the area.
For sure. And the reason that I did it was because of what I went through when I first invested. So I wanted this one because it was my first ever solo project investing in real estate. I wanted it to be something that I was proud of, that community would be proud of, that community has never experienced before. We're talking a neighborhood that doesn't, have any experience with granite countertops, knowing that they need to be sealed and taken care of, or things of that nature. They don't have walk-in showers, stuff like that. So I wanted to gut it to make sure that it was not only a very good cash flowing, non-headache investment for me, but it was something that I was proud of, that the community was also proud of, to help the value of the neighborhood come up. So I just took too long to do it. That's it. So I launched my team while I was doing that. So I in all honesty, I dried up capital. So I made the decision to take the tax write-off and cut the $40,000 loss before I spent any additional funds getting that project completed and not being able to refinance out,
So what's the status of it now?
Sold it.
You sold it?
Yep. I paid January, actually, or February. Might have been March. I don't know. It was this year.
It was this year.
Yeah, I sold it not too long ago, and shout out to Jonathan Nunez. He brought a buyer for me off market.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I think they're adding a bedroom and a bathroom on the back of it, doing a lot of what, other investors are doing. Mm-hmm. Potentially going to Section 8 it, get the really good cash flow. So I actually got the advice from James Jones to do that right before I sold it, but
yep.
It didn't make sense for me to invest more liquid cash into that deal. It made more sense for me to, cut my losses, and especially while my other deals are going smooth as well. So.
Yeah, but they rinse and repeat that strategy.
Rinse and repeat.
All day long.
Yeah, and it works. So
take those 2-1s, turn them into 4-2s, rent them out to Section 8.
Yep. The one I owned was a 2-1, 800 square foot. I mean, for me, it was really emotional. But I had to recognize and realize that when it comes to investing, there's not any emotion.
You got to take the emotion.
There's not emotion. Yep. So cut the loss, call it a day, keep it pushing. So.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you having you on,
Of course.
Mark. And yep. Glad to have you all back for another episode, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Peace.